I had told her, I said, if a man beating on you and pulling guns on you, sooner or later, he gonna kill you, and I'm gonna have to bury you. And it went just like I said.
Thank you for watching WhyIKilledYouTV. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this particular channel. Today we're going to be talking about a very, very devastating case. We're going to be talking about a mother of 8. On June the 30th, 2022, 28-year-old Marquicha Thomas, like I said, she was a mother of 8, was tragically murdered by her boyfriend, 34-year-old Byron Pipkin. Pipkin is from Cordova, Tennessee. The incident occurred during a domestic dispute between the two at their residence. According to reports, Pipkin shot Thomas in the front yard while her children were present. A 10-year-old child hiding in a car witnessed the shooting. After the shooting, Pipkin moved Thomas's body into the garage where the child was hiding, and then kidnapped Thomas's 6-year-old child and fled the scene. Pipkin was apprehended the following day after a standoff with law enforcement at a motel in Memphis. He was found guilty of multiple charges, including first-degree premeditated murder, especially aggravated kidnapping and firearm possession offenses. His sentencing is scheduled for April the 1st, 2024. Marquicha Thomas was known for her dedication to her family and her aspirations in the healthcare field. Her untimely death has left a profound impact on her community and highlights the devastating consequences of domestic violence. Let's run this clip.
In the news at 10 tonight, family and friends come together to remember a Memphis mother of 8 who was shot and killed. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Shay Arthur. Investigators believe the woman's boyfriend is responsible. WREG's Jordan James was the only reporter at a vigil tonight. He joins us now live in the studio with how Marquicha Thomas's loved ones are coping with her death. Jordan, I can imagine this was very emotional.
Yes, Shay, as you would imagine, this loss hits close to home for many of them on a weekend that is supposed to be filled with joy has turned into sorrow for those who knew and loved Marquicha Thomas.
The banks of the Mississippi River.
What's up? Good.
Loved ones have come together to remember Marquicha Thomas.
She was always 10 toes down.
A piece of me left when my little sister left, for real. Couldn't do nothing but cry.
The mother of 8 was killed last week when police say her boyfriend Byron Pipkin shot her and dragged her body into the garage and drove off.
They don't know. When they take a loved one, they don't know how much it really hurt to lose my only daughter I had.
Prior to Marcus Briscoe's child being taken away, he says the warning signs were there and his deepest fear came true last week.
I had told her, I said, if a man beating on you and pulling guns on you, sooner or later, he gonna kill you, and I'm gonna have to bury you. And it went just like I said.
Pipkin ended up being arrested after a tip led officers to a South Memphis motel where they took him into custody.
Get out, please get out. If he fighting you, pulling guns on you, get out the relationship, because sooner or later, like I told my daughter, he is gonna kill you.
Despite what led up to her death, loved ones are choosing to remember her as the light in which she was.
It's about the kids, and I just want everybody to stay in good spirits and, love everybody while they're here.
And Pipkin has been charged with first-degree murder, among other charges. A GoFundMe has been set up to support the family during this time. You can find those details on our website. In studio,
on June 30th, 2022, a 29-year-old mother of 8 children, Marquicha Thomas, made a courageous decision to refuse her boyfriend in her own home, but what happened next left those who knew her regretting that decision. Minutes later, the police would receive a harrowing 911 call from the woman's boyfriend about a shooting in the same home at Crosswood Lane in Cordova, Tennessee. And when the police got there, they found a heart-breaking scene. Marquicha was lying on the floor of the garage, riddled with bullets and barely clinging on. She was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately, it was too late. She died of her injuries soon after reaching the hospital. As the police dug for answers, they turned to the boyfriend who made the call and claimed of chasing away the shooters. But something didn't sit right, and it wasn't long before police made a shocking discovery as to why a mother of 8 was unalived.
Sad.
This is the tragic story of Marquicha Thomas.
8 kids, horrible.
Marquicha Thomas was born into the Thomas family on October 29, 1993. From the very beginning, she was surrounded by love, and as she grew, she carried that same warmth with her, radiating it everywhere she went. Marquicha was always full of joy, kindness, and love. She grew up with her family in downtown Memphis. Even though she wasn't the oldest child, she acted like she was. She took care of her siblings and made her family proud every day. Everyone looked up to Marquicha. Her siblings adored her and trusted her with everything. Her father was proud of the woman she was becoming. Marquicha was the bright light in her family, the one who always wanted to do the right thing. However, her destiny didn't seem to lie in where she was at the time. Chasing a better future, Marquicha moved to Cordova, Tennessee. Not too far from home, but just far enough to start fresh. She had big dreams and was ready to work for them. And she did. Marquicha was focused, hardworking, and careful with every step she took. But what she didn't know was that all her efforts, all her hope, would lead to heartbreak instead of the happiness she imagined. Marquicha had a heart of gold, but life didn't always return the favor. She loved deeply and cared genuinely, but when it came to love, she just didn't get lucky. Every man who came into her life took her kindness for weakness. Instead of cherishing her, they hurt her, all because she had a soft heart. It wasn't just the fact that the men all left her, but the way they usually did was shocking. After a while, the men she trusted would leave her, leaving behind the children they had together. In the end, Marquicha had 8 beautiful kids, but her heart never stopped hoping for that happy ending. What she didn't know was that love, sometimes, can lead you in situations that bring you pain instead of joy. That's exactly what happened to Marquicha. Marquicha was loved by everyone who knew her. She always had this way of helping those around her. Her little sister would say that Marquicha was a giver with a heart that was bigger than most. Even when she didn't have much, Marquicha would give all she had to make sure others were taken care of. With so many mouths to feed, it was never a burden for her. She just saw it as part of who she was.
So I'm not here to judge nobody, but this young lady was only 28 years old and had 8 children with several different fathers. It seems like she was looking for love in all the wrong places. This is sad. This is sad, but may she rest in peace. But this is horrible.
Someone who gave, no matter what. In her community, Marquicha was always there, helping, supporting, and standing up for those who had no one else to fight for them. At home, even as a single mother, she made sure her kids had everything they needed to feel safe and loved.
Good.
Even though they came from different fathers, her children shared a bond that was unbreakable. They loved each other, like true siblings. Marquicha worked tirelessly, taking on multiple jobs to make sure her kids had everything they needed while working in Cordova. But someone was about to take her attention from her children temporarily. While she was there, she met a 33-year-old man named Byron Pipkin. Despite her past relationships not turning out the way she hoped, Marquicha never gave up on love. Before long, she found herself falling deeply, madly in love with Byron. Not that she was desperate for love or something, but there was actually something special about Byron. Byron was charming and full of love, and he quickly won Marquicha's heart. He cared for her deeply and accepted her kids as his own, even though he wasn't their father. That made Marquicha fall for him even more. Byron, in turn, was drawn to Marquicha because of her kind and genuine heart. Not much was known about Byron, but he was a hard worker with big dreams for his life. After they met, he and Marquicha quickly began dating. On social media, they looked like the perfect couple, always sharing photos of their dates, hangouts, and time spent together at home.
This one's for couples. 13 embarrassing questions. Who overthinks everything? Who showers less? Who is always eating? Who has a nicer butt? Who is more possessive? Who drools more? Who is the better driver?
So it looked like they was, really feeling each other. I'm not really sure what went wrong, but it went wrong.
Who curses more? Who always sleeps in? Who is always on their phone? Who has the worst singing voice? Who takes the most selfies? Who is the lawbreaker?
Their love seemed so strong that many friends and family couldn't help but envy the bond they shared. Not long after, Marquicha became pregnant and gave birth to Byron's child. But what seemed like the perfect life was just a facade. Byron worked hard to hide his true nature, but eventually it came to light. He was quick-tempered, rude, and selfish, caring for no one but himself. Marquicha loved Byron despite everything. To her, he supported her and her kids, and that made her believe he cared. But deep down, she knew that wasn't enough to justify staying in such a toxic relationship. She deserved more than just empty support. It wasn't the love she had hoped for. As the saying goes, you can only hide your true nature for so long. And that was the case with Byron. Whenever he got angry, he became physically abusive towards Marquicha. He would curse at her and make life unbearable for the kids too.
Red flag.
His kindness, once a mask, faded, revealing the cruelty underneath. But there was more. The kids, who once saw Byron as a father, began to fear him. Whenever he started throwing tantrums, they would run and hide, seeking shelter so they wouldn't get caught in the middle of the fights between him and their mom. The man they once trusted had turned into someone they could no longer recognize or feel safe around. They used to share happy pictures of their love, but as things began to change, Marquicha started posting sad messages on her social media. It was clear to everyone that the beautiful relationship they once showed off had taken a dark turn. What had triggered Byron's sudden change? Or was this his plan all along? He had entered Marquicha's life just to bring her more pain than she had already had? The questions hung in the air, unanswered. As the truth about Byron slowly unfolded, Marquicha welcomed Byron into her life, even though his family didn't approve of his attitude. She treated his family like her own, showing them nothing but love and kindness. At one point, Byron even took to social media to praise Marquicha, thanking her for all the love and support she had shown him and his family. Little did anyone know that praise would soon fade as the truth about their relationship came to light. Byron even praised Marquicha for putting up with his bad behavior, promising to change and become the very best version of himself for her and the kids. For a while, it seemed like things might actually improve, but just when it looked like there was hope, Byron would snap, turning back into the monster he truly was. He would beat her up, sometimes even pointing a gun at her, threatening to end her life. Each promise of change was just a lie, and the cycle of abuse continued.
It takes a special type of person to come into somebody's life, especially if you don't have any children and they already have 7 children of their own. And then you guys produce an 8th child. That is a lot of stress. It takes a special person to deal with that. And this guy, he couldn't deal with it, I don't think.
The abuse grew worse, to the point where Marquicha's father, Mr. Thomas, warned her to leave before it was too late. Before Byron finally took her life.
If he fighting you, pulling guns on you, get out the relationship, because sooner or later, like I told my daughter, he is going to kill you.
If only Marquicha could turn back time, she would have listened to her father and left with her children, but by then, the damage had already been done, and it was too late to undo the pain she had already suffered. Something tragic was about to happen. On the afternoon of June 30th, 2022, tension hung heavy in the air at the home of Marquicha and Byron in Cordova, Tennessee. What once appeared to be a picture of love had now crumbled into something dark and dangerous. After yet another heated argument, Marquicha made a desperate move. She tried to escape. She was done living in fear and pretending things would get better, but she had no idea that trying to leave that day would become a fight for her life. As she hurried toward the garage, hoping to find safety and protect her children, Byron's anger escalated. In a horrifying moment, he pulled out a firearm and shot Marquicha in the front yard.
Christ.
The sound of the gunshots shattered the fragile calm, and Marquicha collapsed, gravely wounded. Despite the chaos, one of their children was hiding nearby in the garage, witnessing the terrifying scene unfold. Byron then dragged Marquicha's lifeless body into the garage, concealing the tragedy from the outside world. Without remorse, he fled the home, taking their 6-year-old child with him, after which he did something quite shocking. He called 911, claiming that an unknown gunman had come into their garage and shot Marquicha. He told the dispatcher he was on a wild chase to catch the supposed culprit, all while hiding the truth of what he had just done. When the officers arrived at the crime scene, everything changed. The truth about what had really happened between Marquicha and Byron came to the light. Byron, who had called 911 saying he was chasing the shooter, was soon being tracked by the very police he had called for help. The question was, why would the boyfriend, who witnessed and reported the incident, become the prime suspect? The more the police learned, the clearer it became. Byron was no hero, but the man who had pulled the trigger. The next day, neighbors who had witnessed the horrific event came forward to the police. They told officers who had traveled from downtown Memphis to Cordova exactly what had happened. They explained how the argument between Byron and Marquicha escalated, leading to Byron shooting her as she tried to escape through the garage. After he shot her, Byron dragged her lifeless body into the garage, took her daughter with him, and then drove off. This revelation changed everything for the police, confirming what they had suspected all along. This all unfolded around 11:45 a.m. on July 1st, 2022. By the time the police arrived at the crime scene, it was already too late. Marquicha had lost too much blood. She was rushed to the hospital, but despite the doctor's efforts, she succumbed to her wounds. Her death was heartbreaking, not just for her family, but for the entire neighborhood. The loss of such a kind and loving soul left a deep, painful mark on everyone who knew her. The neighbors shared stories of how friendly, loving, and caring Marquicha was to everyone she met.
She was very friendly. She used to walk her dogs around, speak to everybody. Everybody knew her. Very good person at heart.
She wasn't just beautiful on the outside. Her heart was equally beautiful. She had a golden spirit, always giving her time, love, and energy to everyone and everything around her. Marquicha's kindness touched everyone, and her absence left a void that could never be filled. One sad fact remained. Maybe, if the neighbors had called for help sooner or rushed her to the hospital immediately after the incident, Marquicha might still be alive today. As the investigation continued, her father mourned deeply, bitterly lamenting how he had warned Marquicha to leave the relationship while she still could. He couldn't help but wonder if things would have turned out differently if she had listened to his advice.
They don't know. When they take a loved one, they don't know how much it really hurt to lose my only daughter I had.
The pain of that thought weighed heavily on him, as it did on everyone who loved her. His worst fear had come true. His little girl, full of life, had been taken from him because of love. It left him wondering, is it wrong to love, or is it right to endure abuse, hoping that your partner will change? These questions haunted him as he tried to make sense of the tragedy. The answer seemed clear in the pain of Marquicha's death. Love should never cost someone their life. No one should have to endure abuse in the hope of change. True love is about respect, kindness, and safety, not fear and pain. While Byron dropped off Marquicha's daughter at a friend's house and went to a motel, trying to lay low, 48 hours after the incident, the police finally tracked him down to the Economy Inn after receiving a tip. When they arrived, Byron barricaded himself inside, refusing to come out of his hiding spot. The standoff began as the police worked to bring him out and face the consequences of his actions. After hours of trying to talk him out, the police finally forced their way in and took Byron into custody.
Pipkin ended up being arrested after a tip led officers to a South Memphis motel where they took him into custody.
Once the news broke, several witnesses from both Marquicha's and Byron's families and friends came forward to testify against him. Their voices helped paint the full picture of the abuse Marquicha endured. In the end, justice began to take shape for Marquicha, a woman ripped away from her children and the love of her family far too soon. Byron was charged in court with first-degree murder, being a convicted felon in possession of a weapon, domestic assault, and resisting arrest. In a surprising turn, members of Byron's family came forward to show their support for Marquicha's family, offering condolences and standing against his actions. That same week, on Sunday, friends, family, and neighbors gathered to hold a heartfelt memorial for Marquicha. They came together to honor her life, remember her kindness, and promise that her voice would never be silenced. It was a heartbreaking weekend. Many were still in shock, struggling to believe that someone as peaceful and kind as Marquicha was truly gone.
You're gonna die. I don't want to do this.